Welcome to the OK Not OK podcast. I am Dr. OK, and today I will crush it by selecting the best possible Survivor Series traditional tag team matches that we have possible right now on the main roster with those available possibilities, because we've got some restrictions here. But let's take it back just a moment before we get to those picks. Way back in the day, in 2016, we had a WWE brand split. Yeah, that's right. That's what we're doing right now. So in that year, we had the 2016 Survivor Series where we had challengers from one brand take on champions from the other brand. Pretty revolutionary stuff, I know. But WWE decided to improve on that idea in 2017 after mysteriously no title changed hands in 2016, and they decided to go with champion versus champion matches, which we had for 5 straight years from 2017 through 2021. And then WWE completely messed it up by going to this War Games idea. And all the fun and tradition was lost. So let's bring that back to a better day and make our own traditional Survivor Series tag teams. So in Dr. OK fashion, we're not just going to name 5 old superstars, we are going to actually build the entire card, so that means we're going to have some restrictions on who we can pick for these teams. Now, we're not going to change the past. Crown Jewel did actually happen, and those champion versus champion matches already happened for those terrible Crown Jewel championships. Those matches are off the table, but we are going to go back to the champion versus champion format because that was the better way to go, and we need to bring that back. Now, Triple H loves his 5 match cards, so that sets up perfectly for us here because we will have the Intercontinental Champion, Braun Breaker, take on LA Knight, your United States Champion, in one match. Then we will have the World Tag Team Champions, the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and JD McDonough, take on the Motor City Machine Guns with the WWE Tag Team Championships. And then for the Women's Tag Team Championships, well, we only have one of those, so of course, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair will defend against a team from Monday Night Raw. So the best team there is Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark of the Pure Fusion Collective. So after those 3 matches, we have the rest of the main rosters to select for the 2 traditional Survivor Series matches. But of course, we are going to put restrictions on that as well, because anyone who is injured is not going to make a miraculous comeback and be inserted into these matches. So CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, out due to injury. Randy Orton, out due to injury. Anyone you don't ever see, like Logan Paul, John Cena, or The Rock, out. Not gonna happen. We will stick to those people who are actually healthy right now. So let's see where we get to. Yesterday, in our complaining about the women's War Games matches, we obviously talked a lot about the women, so today we'll start with the men. So for the Monday Night Raw traditional Survivor Series team, 5-on-5, we will make the captain Gunther. And in fact, the captain for each of these teams will be the current champion. So Gunther is automatically the captain. However, Gunther is not selecting the team. It is the general managers who are selecting. So Adam Pearce, unfortunately, will be in charge of selecting, and Nick Aldis will be in charge of selecting the SmackDown side. So after Gunther for the men's team for Raw, that gives us our next spot, which will go to Damian Priest, the former champion who lost the title to Gunther and is also the #1 contender for Gunther's title. So obviously that match cannot happen at Survivor Series in this traditional Survivor Series format. So let's just say it gets bumped to Saturday night's main event. So for now, tensions are going to be awfully high when those two have to team up together. Up next will be Gunther's previous challenger, Sami Zayn. And of course, those two have had some great matches this year, both at WrestleMania and just for the World Heavyweight Championship a few weeks ago. And Sami, of course, deserves to be on this team as he is tied for the most one-on-one victories on the Monday Night Raw roster. And the other man that is tied with Sami is main event Jey Uso. He takes the 4th spot on this roster, and he certainly deserves it due to that as well. And he's also had some good matches against Gunther in the past. So again, another strange dynamic that will go on right there. And who gets the 5th spot? Well, it's the winner of last month's battle at Crown Jewel between Seth Rollins and Big Bronson Reed. So Rollins gets the upper hand here. So we have to assume that this team was picked before last Monday night's Raw, when of course Bronson Reed got the win, because there just wouldn't be any reason for the Bloodline to interfere in this hypothetical traditional Survivor Series match. So that we just have to wipe off the board and assume that the prior match was the only one that has happened so far. And that means Bronson Reed is still going to want to get his hands on Seth Rollins. So when he learns that Seth Rollins is the pick, he is going to continue to try to go at him every single week. And you know what we're going to do in a nice little twist? Here we will say that before the match on the night of Survivor Series, yep, backstage brawl, Big Bronson Reed is going to take out Seth Rollins and injure him so he cannot participate in this match. And then Reed will be the last man standing who will have to be there to replace him. And that gives us a nice little setup for what we want to see going forward between Rollins and Reed, as well as getting Reed onto this roster. Alright, so let's switch on over to the SmackDown side for the men's traditional Survivor Series team. It of course then is captained by your WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes. So the first man he has to look to here is injured with a pile driver. So yeah, Randy Orton's not participating here. But the second man he's going to look at is, well, the OTC, Roman Reigns. He tagged with him once, and Reigns kept his word and had his back. So Aldis and Rhodes are going to talk this out. Aldis obviously wants Reigns, but Rhodes needs a little bit more assurance that Reigns will again have his back and not injure him to go after that title yet again. And so Reigns tells Rhodes that he will again have his back, but only if Jimmy Uso is on the team as well. So Rhodes goes back to Aldis, and reluctantly Aldis agrees to this because Jimmy just has a terrible record and pretty much always loses, so he doesn't deserve to be on this team. But so he can get Roman Reigns on this team, Nick Aldis is going to allow both Reigns and Jimmy to be on the team. So that immediately just leaves us with 2 spots. And well, there's no way Nick Aldis is putting Kevin Owens on this team. So he's obviously just skipping right past him. So he does not have many places to look. AJ Styles is injured. Shinsuke Nakamura just came back. So you can't just immediately insert him into the lineup. Santos Escobar is reasonable, but yeah, we're not quite gonna go there. So instead, he's gonna have 2 separate one-on-one conversations. First with Andrade, because Andrade actually deserves to be on this team. He's above 500 at 7-5-1 in one-on-one matches. And Aldis apologizes to Andrade for the way things worked out in their best of 7 series and also with the US title match. So he says, Andrade, if you agree to this match, we will make sure that Carmelo Hayes does not attack you during this match. And then after that, you can go one-on-one to truly have a true Game 7. And then after Andrade agrees to this, well, Aldis then has his second one-on-one meeting, this time with, you guessed it, Carmelo Hayes. And no, Carmelo Hayes does not have a great record, but a 3-3 record against Andrade is pretty darn good. So he says he saw something in Carmelo after all of these matches and is impressed, so he thinks he would make a good 5th person to be on this team. But again, he makes the same deal that he just made with Andrade, that those two will not turn each other during this match, and in fact will have to work together in order to get a true Game 7. And then at the end, whoever wins that Game 7 will get one more shot at LA Knight. And those are our two men's traditional Survivor Series matches. So let's switch on over to the women. First on the Raw side, Liv Morgan is of course your champion, so she is the captain here. So she goes to Pierce and says, I must have Raquel Rodriguez, even though Raquel has not done much winning this year. So yeah, we're gonna leave her in anyways. Adam Pearce is obviously gonna capitulate to that. So yeah, Raquel is of course number 2 on this team. But she's not gonna get anything else that she wants, because up next will be her number 1 contender, Io Sky, who obviously deserves to be in this match. She has the most combined wins, both one-on-one and tag, on the Raw women's roster. So you have to count Io for sure. But of course, her damage control friend, Kairi Sane, is also going to make an appearance on this team. You just can't leave off Kairi if you've got Io. We talked about it in depth yesterday in that video, but the same applies here. But guess what, folks? She does actually belong in this match no matter the format, because she has 11 tag wins in 2024. That is number 1 among any woman on the Raw women's roster. And this is a tag team match, so of course you want to have Kairi Sane on your team in this match. And for the 5th spot on this team, yeah, you have to include Rhea Ripley here. Of course it's gonna be Rhea. There's no way Liv can get out of this. She's gonna try all she wants, but it simply isn't going to work. You must have Mommy on this team, even with that face mask. And yeah, this of course is gonna get us set right back up around for another championship match between Rhea and Liv. So those two are just gonna have to find a way to figure it out for one night until they go right back to fighting each other. And apologies to Lyra Valkyria, who is getting bumped off of this list. Obviously, I thought she was gonna be here because I wasn't ready for Rhea to be making a comeback, but good for Rhea and unfortunately bad for Lyra. But she is a great up-and-comer. She'll have plenty of chances in the future. She really does kind of deserve it, having the 3rd most one-on-one victories on the Raw women's roster. At 5-4, above 500, it's pretty good, but it's not quite good enough when you're up against Rhea Ripley for that last spot. And lastly, for the SmackDown women's roster, of course, Nia Jax is your captain as the women's WWE champion. And of course, you know that means she is, of course, bringing along Miss Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton. And you have to admit that Tiffany's not done a lot of winning lately, but being Miss Money in the Bank goes a long way, and she's not getting bumped off of this squad like Lyra is as a top rookie. So of course, Tiffy takes spot number 2. And spot number 3, she is the queen of SmackDown. So yeah, we're gonna have to give in and allow Candice LeRae to get spot number 3. I know I'm not particularly excited about it, but she surprisingly does kind of deserve this, as she is 5-8 in traditional tag matches, when you have Bianca and Jade ineligible for this because they have their own tag team match. That leaves her with the most tag team victories of anyone on the SmackDown women's roster. And just like we said for Kairi, this is a tag match, so she's as good as you get here. And in fact, her 7 total wins combined with the one-on-one wins and tag wins put together is the 5th best on SmackDown and on a 5-person team. Well, yeah, that's good enough. So that takes us to spot number 4. This one's a no-brainer. It has to be Bayley. She was the former champion, and we know it's going to be a little bit tricky for her going up against Nia here, who they've had a big rivalry here over the year. But you know what's even more interesting? Seeing her going back to fighting against her former damage control friends of Io Sky and Kairi Sane. So those are 2 very interesting dynamics that Bayley will have to contend with at once. But she won't have to do it alone, because Naomi will get spot number 5, and she certainly deserves it, nearly winning the title against Nia just last week. So with tensions high, this will certainly have the possibility to lead right into a rematch against Nia once this match is over. And so I guess at the end of the day, WWE didn't do too badly on picking the 10 women for the War Games roster if this were the traditional format, because Jade and Bianca being off the board goes a long way to giving a couple more spots of availability. We were able to get Candice and Naomi right back onto the board, so the rosters were pretty even at the end of the day. But yeah, you still messed up when it came to War Games. Speaking of War Games, yesterday we replaced 40% of the women's War Game roster right here in this video. So if you missed that, be sure to check that out, because just like changing from the traditional format to War Games, you missing out on that video is not okay.